Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
It is here, the episode you guys have all been waiting for. Actually, no, it's just a regular episode. Come to you by the Outdoor Drive. This is your boy, East Coast Trev, and the good madman is with us as always. What's up, bro?
What up?
Oh, my God. You know, it's winding down after the big show at Mohegan Sun.
Dude, great show.
It was. Super cool turnout. I'm glad we did the seminars. They planned out. They worked out. Met some really great people. Thanks for everybody that joined us at that. You know, it was super cool, super intimate. You know, it was just fun. It was fun. You know, we might have had an average of 10 guys probably throughout the 5 seminars.
Yeah.
So we averaged, but it was the right people, I think. The guys that jumped in and came in and hung out with us and learned a little bit was the right people, and I think that's important. There was a ton of really cool little guys there, youth. It was just a good weekend. The rolling amount of people that came through, bro, it was insane.
Yeah, that was it was hands down my favorite show we've done for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said with the seminars, like everybody that came was like engaging. They were all interested in it. I'll tell you what, after doing 5 demos on climbing a tree in 3 days, I was like mid-season form, dude. Like I was dialed in like it was November 15th. Like, set up, tear down, set up, tear down. Like by Sunday afternoon, I was like, I don't really feel like setting up right now, but
it was the 20th of November.
The day he walks by, I got to get in the tree.
That's right. No, it was fun to engage with a ton of people. For everyone that stopped by the booth, really appreciate it. Tom Vital brought out the vinyl box, so it was cool to see him in person, all mounted up. He let it hang in the show for the whole weekend, so that was cool. We really appreciate that. That was super fun, and it was just some real good people, man. Got to shake hands with some awesome guys.
Oh, dude, some awesome people.
It was definitely worth the weekend. For you guys that did miss out or still do want, we do have a handful of hats left, and we do have some shirts left. So if you guys do want some, we can ship them out. Just hit me up, and we'll get them mailed out to you. So if we do have some merch.
There was probably like, just off the top of my head, probably like 2 or 3, maybe even more people that I talked to at the show this weekend that like I would be engaged in a conversation with them, and then they would like, you know, like you just have like certain conversations with people where you're like, what an awesome person. Like that was just a great conversation, great person. Like the conversation and the topic was like really good, and you could tell how like appreciative they were of like, you know, questions they might have had or whatever, and then they like walk away and you just remember the conversation. And like, I don't know, sometimes you only get that like once a weekend or whatever, but it was like multiple times a day. People were coming down and talking to us, and you know, we always get like the regulars, I like to call them, like the regular listeners that always come through and support us at shows. But like this show, there was like quite a few times people would come through that I didn't know who they were, like, but they're like regular listeners, and you know, come down to the seminar, and it's like, yeah, I listen to the podcast all the time, Madman, what's up? And I'm like, dude, like this is awesome. You know?
No, but that's what they do it for. So it's definitely cool to catch up with some cool individuals. And you know, it was funny inside the seminar is, you know, as we talk about all the time, there's like nowhere to go and touch a saddle, right? So it was nice that we did that seminar for guys to be able to do it, and some guys that they're still saddle hunting, but like not really sure how to put it all together. You know what I'm saying? So it was fun. I think that we hit the topic out of the park, because there's not a lot of guys talking about it or doing it, and we just happen to know it. So it was nice to do that. And just
I think everybody's talking about it, right? It's like you can't
mm,
get away from it. It's everywhere on Facebook. It's on every YouTube. You turn on
right.
YouTube, somebody's saddle hunting or the hunting public or whatever, right? Like everybody's doing it, but it definitely could be intimidating
Mm.
and like just everything's a loaded question. Like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And like, unless you have a buddy that's already like fully engulfed, like where do you go to get hands on or somebody like actually like, dude, I couldn't imagine just today's the day I'm gonna order a bunch of shit. It's just gonna show up at my house and I'm just gonna figure it out without somebody guiding me or showing me.
Mm.
Dude, that's a that's intimidating,
It
you know.
is.
So, like you said, it was cool to have the seminar, and I think that's why we kind of picked. We could have done seminars on a ton of things.
Oh yeah.
I think that's why we picked that because I think it's just one of those topics that people could take a lot out of seeing in person.
And it kind of, it's an overwhelming thing, right? Like you can watch a million YouTubes, but until you see it in person or do it yourself, you're really not going to understand it. So for someone to put it together, it's really an untapped resource, in my opinion. There's very few people out there. We always talk about, oh yeah, I remember when I started saddle hunting, I was like, oh yeah, I'll meet up with you if you want to sit in the saddle or whatever. So it's nice to like be in one place and be able to do that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Plus, I put myself back in that position when before I decided to, make the leap. And like all the questions that I had and concerns, like, what about this? Or what about how long do your ropes last? Or what about
yeah.
how do you do this? Or what about shooting? And like, I had all the same questions. But now, after years of doing it, it's just funny when you get that same question from somebody else that's in the same position you were in, not so long ago, and it's just like all you can do is kind of laugh, like, yeah, I understand why you're asking that question because I had the same question, but now with experience, I can answer that question and tell you why it's not something to worry about, or how to work through that, or how to take care of that problem.
I know so many people that will go out and buy saddle hunting gear, and then they'll hit me up and be like, "Hey, I really need a tutorial on this." Like, and they've already bought it, right? So could you imagine how overbearing that could possibly be? You're into it for $1,000 and you haven't even you don't even know how to use the gear that you have. That's like buying a standard car and you don't even know how to drive standard. You got to have
Yeah.
somebody show you how to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
literally. So it was cool. We appreciate everyone coming down and hanging out with us and spending the weekend, and it was just a great show all around. Our boy Eric came down from Vermont, and just a ton of just great people that stopped by. Ken, as always, spent the day with us. That's I'll call that the number one. He's our number one because he's always around us, always coming to all the shows, always involved with what's going on. It's fun. It's fun. It's really what keeps this thing ticking, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I wish there was more, man. I wish that there was more. I wish there was more.
More Kens.
What?
More Kens.
Well, oh, definitely more Kens, but I meant more
Oh, we had a.
events local.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say like Chris Bittman and his whole family came through.
Mm.
Jeremy
Joe Cuddy,
McGillicuddy
as
and
always.
Mama McGillicuddy. I don't think they've ever missed a show ever.
They
Like,
went to Turning Stone. They
dude,
have a certain
we
place
could
in
have a
my
show
heart.
like in Mexico, and Jeremy would show up with his mom and be like, "What
They
up?"
they hold a certain place in my heart, man. They come to hunt stock. They went to, remember they showed up Turning Stone. We didn't even know they were coming, and we look up and
No.
there's Jeremy and Mom. Like they hold a special place. But there's a ton of people, man, and I know we're missing a bunch. But Matt came. Matt. How do you say his last name? He's from Ledger, the bass fisherman Reynolds. What is?
Never Sundays.
Yeah, he came in, bought a hat, and like Just a ton of cool people we get to see.
Mason and Court Perkins.
Yeah. Yep.
That was cool. They actually missed the last seminar. When was that? That was Saturday, right?
Saturday.
So we went over there and wheeled the pole out of the seminar booth and gave Mason a little
tutorial,
private little lesson. But
that's what it's for. That's what it's really all about. So we're gonna drop it right into a turkey hunting podcast. I know we had one with Team Enticer last week. If you guys didn't go and check that one out, you probably should. Al and Riley jumped on with us, and we kind of tore it up. Some really cool stuff. Probably hands down one of the best friction calls on the market that these guys make. It's something else. It's great stuff. So and then we're gonna jump on here with Shane and tear into some really cool stuff too. Shane's a badass turkey hunter, makes his own calls, all that good stuff. We're gonna kind of tear through that, but before we do it, we'll do some housekeeping. Anything new this week? Did you get out doing something, or we were kind of pretty much?
Are you kidding me? Like the last 2 weeks has been dedicated to freaking Mohegan Sun. All the running around.
It's never ending.
The whole week was like something do to get ready, and just what, I do got to give a shout out to our buddy Drew, because dude, he hooked it up with that pole, man, and I don't know what we would have done without it, because we were my computer needs an update.
We need Ken. Where's our IT guy?
Reached out to him because he's been doing shows, saddle hunting shows forever, right? So I reached out to him for an idea how to do a single standalone pole that I could hang off with the saddle. And, I was just looking for an idea, like a design idea so we could build it. And he was like, dude, come get mine, borrow it. So, huge thank you to him for hooking it up. But still, I had to go get it and load it in the truck and get it to Mohegan Sun and get it in, and then bring it back. So, that was
all week.
It was a little stressful, but it worked out good. And then I'm on call this week, so that sucks. It was just like big weekend, and then right into a shitty work week.
Yeah. Another good shout out too. If you guys are looking for any types of t-shirts for your businesses, for anything, Hayden over at Campus Wear is the absolute man. He did all of our merchandise for us and absolutely knocked him out of the park. It's nice to have somebody local. We were doing it online for quite some time, and Hayden kind of took up the reins and started to make all of our merch for us, and he knocked it out of the park. The hats, what he did with the logo and surrounding it, and just knocked it out of the park. So if anybody needs anything, contact me, and I'll get you in touch with Hayden from Campus Wear. He's local right here. He's actually out of Mansfield Stores area, but we can get you hooked up with him. Does some really cool stuff and whatnot. But I did stop up at JT Fly Shop the other day. I was on the phone with you and bought a new fly rod. So, and I went down to the river on my way in between estimates and got a little wet, caught a couple of trout. That was kind of fun, and it was loaded. They must have just stocked there. I didn't know. Like, I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And I hit the river over there. It was nice to catch one on a fly rod. It's been some time. And I don't know. I walked in the shop, and I'm just like looking, and I'm like, I think I need a fly rod. I don't know why. It just like come over me like, oh, I think I'm going to buy a fly rod. Fuck it. It's like that traditional bow light, and you're like, oh, well, we'll do something a little stupid. So I bought a fly rod. And I used to fly fish a ton.
That's cute.
Yeah, well, when I out fish you on the bank, it'll be
weeks of you like sticking your nose up in the air with me catching trout, and now all of a sudden, I'm glad I could motivate you though. Good. That's good. That's what I'm here for, to motivate people to get out there and do things.
Yeah, I wanted one to throw in the truck because from driving around and stuff and messing around and have something. I got a little small one, but whatever, it's all good. So it was fun.
Get me one of them center pins.
You're gonna center pin?
I didn't even know what it was until this weekend.
It's gonna be a mess, dude. Have you ever I just want you to go to a shop and put one in your hand first, because
I honestly don't like the even with a spinning rod. Like, I did that as a kid, right? That whole drifting, worm, just like a night crawler on a little hook, and just throw it in the drift and letting it drift down. And dude, I catch trout doing that, right? Like, catch a pile of them. I just don't like that style. Like, I don't like the whole drift style in the stream. I'd rather cast upstream and reel down with like lures and stuff like that. They both work 100%, right? I just kind of outgrew that phase, I guess. But now that I know what it was,
Center pin and something else. Like if you're like singular, you're bobber fishing really is what you're doing, and you're fishing with a single bait or whatever. We use them a ton up north. I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't know how to use them. I guess that's probably the only reason I'm not a fan of them. But it's a reel on a ball bearing. So like you touch it and it just rips, and the current is what actually pulls it out, and you palm it as it goes down. But those guys get in some of the pools, and it's annoying because they'll take up the whole pool, and they'll drift the whole thing. But yeah,
it was funny though.
it is.
I was talking to a couple of people this weekend about it, and like I honestly, like if I'm watching somebody just catch fish on YouTube, I can't really tell the difference between fly fishing or center pinning because it looks the same, right?
Yeah.
And like one guy I was talking to I was like, yeah, trying to get up there and check that out, but I was like, I don't fly fish. He's like, neither do I. Center pin. I was like, I don't even know. Could have fooled me.
It was a big thing for like steelies and salmon and stuff like that. It's kind of started integrating into the trout fishing world where a lot more people are using it. It's just a way to present a bait differently. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, right? You're just drifting. You're just drifting natural bait in the natural current and feeding it down to those feeding fish.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Give it a shot. Try it out.
I'm a spinner for life, bro.
Spinner for life. Spinner for life. Well, let's get through some of these sponsors and we'll get this thing underway. Get Shane Simpson on and kind of talk some turkey hunting. It's been a long time coming. Love to have him on. We've been using his owl call for quite some time. And
the best. Can't take that thing out of my hand.
No, it's not.
I've tried. I might have said this in the podcast. I don't remember, but I've tried to find better owl calls at shows, and I'll pick up an owl call and give it a little hoot, and I'm like, nope. If it ain't better than the one I got,
yeah,
I'm all set.
They used to have like the hoot tube and all these other ones, but they're not loud enough. You can't make the noises like you can on one of his. So, and he's coming out with his own little line because he was making them for somebody. So now he's going to have his own. So make sure to watch out for that next season. But if you guys have not yet gone to the bow shop, make sure to go and check out Bow Tech while you're there. I stopped in a Hall Zero yesterday, actually, here in Manchester. I went down and checked out a new stand release. So I went down there and I did one without the click. But while I was there, somebody was buying the new Virtue. So that was the first one I've seen going out. So
you tell them to get that free case?
No, the thing is that he was at the he's at the checkout line and they're looking at sites. So I couldn't be like, oh, hey, tell them promo code Outdoor Drive. They'll give you a free case with that one. I didn't want to say nothing. So I left it alone. But he was buying a Virtue. And kind of kept my own. It was cool. It was cool to watch the first Virtue walk out of the shop. So make sure to check those guys out. Bowtech. Refuse to follow. Latitude Outdoors. We've been using Latitude Outdoors all weekend long and kind of showing guys what we got going on. Make sure to use the promo code Outdoor Drive on that one. Save yourself 15% on all of your mobile hunting needs. The SS carbon sticks, all the AM steel, all that good stuff. The new profile, the soon to be the Ranger 33. So if you guys are looking for a little bit bigger of a backpack, just hold on. Get on to latitudeoutdoors.com. I saw some pictures. I did see some pictures. Yeah. Did you?
I'm pumped for that.
And then huntworthgear.com for all of the early season clothing, or if you're looking to stock up for deer season, there is a little bit of a discount going on. What is that? TKY 30, I think. Is that what it is, Stevie?
No, it's got an M in there. I don't remember.
An M in there. Once you get on the website, it'll say it on the website.
It's usually on the top of the homepage at Huntworth. It is TRKYM20.
There you go. That's the one.
So it's only for a couple more days too, because when's this going to drop? Friday. So you only got it until the end of the month, I think.
Yeah, so make sure to get on over there and check that stuff out. Get it going. And make it happen. Huntworthgear.com. Fourth Arrow camera arms for you guys that are looking to get into saddle hunting. If you're saddle hunting but you want to film, I don't know where I was going with that, but if you want to get into filming, get on over to Fourth Arrow camera arms, and you can get your mobile filming needs. Also, the tripods and all the good stuff they got. Their monopod is fire. Working Class Bowhunter, WCB, use the promo code Outdoor Drive. Save yourself on some of their merch, some killer hats, t-shirts, all that good stuff over at Working Class Bowhunter. And did you see the new kill bottle, dude? The turkey hunting kill bottle?
Yeah.
That shit's fire. I can't wait to get one of those. And then last but not least, just so you guys all remember, we keep them at the end, Sadie's Ammunition. If you're looking to go tungsten, you're looking to change it up, you're looking to smack some birds, Sadie's is the way to go. Get a hold of Aaron Satterfield. And actually, happy birthday to Aaron Satterfield. Today is actually his birthday, so happy birthday to you. So if you guys are looking to get into tungsten, make sure to hit him up. You can get right on his website, Sadie's AmmunitionLLC.com. So go and check them out. And for everybody else, we appreciate you coming to join us this week, and we'll get on with Shane Simpson. What do you think, man?
Let's go.
All right.
The Outdoor Drive Podcast.
I'll take a break from making calls here.
You can keep making.
You can keep making them. It
It's
takes a long
only,
time.
It's only like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 left to do, and then I'll start packing up the orders when we get off this podcast.
Jeez, it's a never-ending battle for you, huh, Shane?
Well, the issue right now is I'm trying to get them all finished by this weekend so I can start getting my turkey gear together because I leave next weekend for Florida.
You're gonna do the? Do you always do Florida every year?
No, I do whatever my daughter's spring break takes us to. Like we went to New Orleans one year for spring break. You know, her spring break up here, it usually occurs about the week prior to a Mississippi opening or Florida opening. So we went to New Orleans one year, and so I just hunted Mississippi after they left. This year she wanted to go to Florida, so we're going down there, and then they're going to fly back home, and I'm going to start hunting. So I was trying to talk them into going somewhere a little bit later because I wanted to go to Alabama when it opened, first week of April or 5th of April, 6th, whatever it is. But yeah, that's kind of where it goes. Now next year, I probably will be back in Florida if I draw a quota hunt I've been trying to get on. I've got enough preference points that I stand a good chance of drawing it. If I don't, then I'll go somewhere else, I guess.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah, Florida's not really my favorite place to hunt. It's open. I wish every state along the southern. I wish they split the country in like tiers. Like all across the South was all April 1st, and then the next was April 15th, and then up here was whatever April 7th and April 15th or something. And then I could just pick any state down there to go. But if it's in, and I'm gonna try to go. I want to get started turkey hunting.
Is Florida a tough state to hunt in? Like, what is the difference between Florida and a lot of the other states?
It's mainly just the terrain. A lot of sand, and depending on what part of the state, the northern part has a lot of pines, and there's palmettos and other stuff down there. And then you get farther south, and it becomes cypress heads and this and that. And to me, I don't know. I've done it enough that I like going to new areas, and Florida's kind of getting boring. It's not that it's any tough or anything. It's just I'm kind of bored with it.
Is it all Osceolas where you're hunting?
No. The line is somewhere central to north central Florida is the imaginary line. But if you want what they call a true Osceola, but I've seen birds that look like Osceolas farther north in Florida.
You hunt a lot of public for them?
Yeah, I basically only hunt public. I can't remember the last time I hunted private for turkeys. It's been a while.
There's nothing wrong with that. Well, why don't we get this thing underway? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Shane Simpson. I'm originally from South Carolina, born and raised there, and grew up there, I guess, for quite a while. And then I moved to Minnesota, got into competition calling, done well with that. Been videoing my hunts since I was 14 or 15 years old. Started putting them on YouTube as I hunted with others in early 2000s. Put them on YouTube like in 2007 was when I created my YouTube channel. And just slowly progressed, improved. I think the product that I'm doing, learn to edit better, just incorporated more cameras, different angles, try to make it feel the viewer feel like they're there. And here we are today. That's kind of the most brief way I can describe
Yeah.
it.
What got you into the whole filming aspect of it? Because that's not, especially at such a young age. At that time, obviously, there wasn't a lot of people filming. There wasn't a lot of people that were into it, right? I mean, like, what
Well,
kind of jump started you into it?
I've never been asked that, but I do have an answer. It's probably my uncle. My uncle had we're talking about the days of the big shoulder mounted VHS camcorders. He had one that he would film our football games. I played little league football, and he would film all the games. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool to go back and watch the games, And I wanted a camera, to record stuff, And I liked to hunt back then, so naturally I just started filming hunts, and they were really crude. I had no way of editing them. There was ways you could edit it on the camera itself, like audio dub stuff, but it was so primitive that I didn't even edit anything. Basically, a hunt involved us talking briefly, and then showing the turkey come in, get shot, or whatever it was, and then us celebrating afterwards. That was basically it, the gist of it. And I just enjoyed looking back on it. I even took people back then, like I took a friend's kid and got his first turkey, and I still have the footage from that hunt way back then. It was just, I don't know, it's just something cool to do and be able to, how it is when you're telling a story, stories often sound more interesting than they do on video because the people embellish a little bit. But I always like recording it because, like, oh man, if you were just there, you could have seen what happened. Well, now I can show them the video what happened, you know. So that's kind of what got me involved. My uncle had one and it really interested me, and I got one for myself.
What do you think that were some of the struggles with carrying such a big video camera in turkey hunting?
Well, I didn't record as much turkey hunting back then. I did more like dove hunts and deer hunts, and just the turkey hunting was kind of a occasional thing. I mostly turkey hunted without a camera. I had a literally this size, like a foot and a half by 3 foot by a foot and a half tall padded case for the camcorder, and I had a shoulder strap, so I carried that whole big bag out in the woods with me. And we'd get up in the deer stand, and I would get it out, and I'd roll some just stuff going on, squirrel or whatever, and so it was. I didn't video a lot of turkey hunts because I didn't have a tripod. It was all I was hand holding everything, and just made it difficult. Deer hunting's pretty easy because like my brother would be in one tree and I'd be in the other tree filming him, or vice versa. He'd film me.
Mm-hmm.
And the dove hunt's pretty easy. I just step my camera in the case with the lid open, and all of a sudden here comes some doves. I yank it out. I can see them coming in the distance. So it's pretty easy for those types of hunts.
That must have been kind of crazy, and then like kind of being there and filming and coming through the curve of what it is today. I mean, like it's a whole different ball game in filming today.
Oh yeah, and I didn't have the money. We were, I guess, lower income back then. Big family, 5 kids, and two parents, 7 of us, and I had to save up my money to get my own camera. But you know, I wanted like a big production camera, but it was way out of my budget. But as consumer cameras improved, they came out with the mini DVs. I had the little tape in the side of it instead of a big VHS tape. And then they came out with digital memory, and then the HD camera came out, and that's when my channel really kind of kicked off. Was in like 2009. That's when I had high definition HD. my first HD camera, and I really started putting more effort into my videos. And I don't know if there's any of the videos on my channel where you can go back and watch that are older than that, because I think I privatized a lot of them because they look, you get on down the road a few years and it looks cheesy, and I'm like, I got to make that a private video.
I think that's part of the growth, though, right? Like, even like for us as podcasters and video, like to watch yourself grow and like go back on some of them old hunts and like, oh man, was I an idiot? Like, can you believe that I did that, or I recorded
Yeah.
it like that, or whatever? Like that growth like is so important to become like that much better in doing it.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, I look back at some of these old hunts, and I hear me calling, and I can remember my train of thought, or in my mind back then, I thought I was a pretty good caller. And I go back and watch it, I'm like, you were terrible.
Can't
That's why
believe
that
you
video is
killed the
private.
turkey.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of perseverance and stuff back then, and a lot of hours in the woods that helped do that, and less about the calling. But
it's
go ahead.
it's videoing it's your own critic, right? Because like
Yeah,
you can get out of your own skin and like watch yourself and you're like you said, oh, I can't believe I called like that. Like I can't believe that I made those noises or whatever. And it almost makes you a better caller, right? Or a better hunter because
yeah,
you're your
yeah.
own
I mean,
critic.
well, I mean, I don't know if it really makes me a better hunter, but to your point earlier, I see my growth or my improvement over the years. I'm like, oh, I was doing that back then, and I'm glad I don't do that anymore, because I've learned that this is a better decision to make in that situation, type of thing. I still enjoy watching those old hunts, and they're kind of enjoyable for me to watch, and sometimes they're funny because how silly I was, or how I don't know how uncomfortable I was in front of the camera. At the time, I thought it was okay, but I look at it like right now, I casually talk to the camera like there's a person there, and that's the mindset I've learned to get into as I did it more years. Is instead of like you're talking to a box and you're trying to act out, I relax, and I know there's an audience behind that lens. They may not be there right now, but I know they're going to be there. And so I look at a camera as a person or people I'm talking to. And so I'm very relaxed and very casual in front of the camera these days, as compared to in the years past.
Does that just come with time, or is there anything you can do to get better at that?
Um, in my case, it came with time and age, because when I was younger, I was more self-conscious about what I did, how people, I always, wondered how people would portray me. Now I don't really give a shit as much, you know. Um, so so it's okay for me just to be me in front of the camera, and I think that's just mostly with age. I've kind of popped out of my shell and I think being in front of the camera a lot helped with that. And also I meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people that watch my stuff, and so that helped me get out of that shell.
It definitely takes a little bit of time. Like it's even when I first started filming and just talking or doing, little like how to videos or whatever, and you kind of think in your mind like, who am I to give this advice to somebody? How to use a crow call, or how to use an owl call, or how to set up a deer stand like this, whatever the case may be. And you're like, why would anybody want to hear from me? And like, it's that confidence booster. Like, just talk to it as if it's your friend, like the three of us having a conversation. That camera is somebody, like kind of like what you're saying, Shane, because but it takes a little bit of time to get over that curve. Like, because at
Yeah.
first you're super self-confident. You're like, oh, I hate my voice, or I can't believe I said it like that, or whatever the case may be.
Yep. And one of the things I always look back on is, I would because I didn't do a good job video my hunts where I showed what was going on, where it didn't need a narration. Early on in my videos, I would film the hunt, and then I'd sit in front of a black curtain and describe what was about to happen. And I hated doing that. It was hard. I kept making so many mistakes, and I'd go through the whole paragraph again of what I had in my head. I didn't really write any things down. I had bullet notes. I had a piece of paper. And I watched other folks on TV, and they were just so natural, doing all this, hand movement, and like they knew everything they wanted to say. And then I realized later they were doing a bunch of, cuts and stuff, and blending it together, and cutaways, cutting the different scenes of And I was like, oh, I'm trying to do it in one take all the way through perfect, and I don't need to do that. But then I started, like I said, I started adding other cameras and trying to and doing a better job of uh, documenting what was going on where I didn't need those narrations afterwards. So that made it a lot better.
And that's the tricky thing is because a lot of people will go and they'll do things where you said like they'll put cuts in or they'll go back and they'll go on their thing, and we're trying to do it probably just like yourself, like you're trying to do it in the moment, like you're trying to have that
Mhm.
realization of what it is. And like I've done it and filmed with some people and some real good friends of mine that have some pretty cool, filming, and then I realized how much of it they go back and they redo it, like recuts. And for me, it's a tough thing to reenact that. Like, why wouldn't you catch that in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like what the real actually is.
Yeah, and if I could give a tip real quick to people that are interested in filming hunts or filming anything for that matter, the biggest mistake I see, like if I have somebody hunting with me and I hand them the camera and they feel their tag, now they're going to film me. The biggest mistake I see they do is they don't treat the camera like it's their eyes. If you're the camera person, your eyes should be in that viewfinder, and everything you want to look at with your eyes, you should be using the camera to do that. And also, they're a bad people that are new to it have a bad habit of not recording enough.
Mhm.
You're recording, and as soon as you finish talking, it's hit the stop and put the camera down. I'm like, no, keep rolling, just hold the camera up. And I had that happen where I was like going through some footage, and I'm like, man, I wish you hadn't have put the camera down so quick every time because we had some great stuff going on. And I see that with I was guilty of that, but
Mhm.
it comes with time. I learned that you can never have too much footage, but it's always you can't recreate when you don't have enough footage, or you could recreate it, fake the scenes, but then it just ain't authentic.
I'm guilty of that, even self filming. It's just me and the camera in the tree, and I'll go back and watch my footage. And I'm like, why did I stop then?
Yeah,
Like, there's no reason. I could have just left it running for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes longer. And once the moment's over, it's over. You can't
yeah,
recreate it. You can try to recreate it, but you can't get it naturally like you could have that one time.
yeah. And I think the biggest reason a lot of people cut it short, and the reason I did it's battery life. You're trying to conserve battery, or you don't have enough SD card space. And so I just started buying really huge storage capabilities for my camera and external batteries, and long batteries that last a long time, and that way I could continue recording as much as I want. Now I have to fill up a bunch of external drives. I go through like 15 terabytes a season, but when I get done with all that, I can go back and delete clips that I know I'm not going to need and free up space. But I can't, like I said earlier, you can't recreate that stuff.
It's better to have it than to want it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you can put it together, you can put together a way better hunt by having what you want, and all of the things that come along with it. Like, did you miss a gobble, or did you, if something is to happen, like trying to catch a film, like how many times would you film a hunt and you miss something because you weren't rolling a camera? So it's always great to have that second angle camera constantly running, so you're not missing out on it.
Exactly.
So I want to get into kind of some of your calls and some of the stuff that you have going on, because you were saying before, like you were a competition caller and whatnot. Like, what brought on you making calls and owl calls and all that?
So I basically always, well, I shouldn't say always, but early on when I still lived in South Carolina, I went to I don't know if it was the NWTF convention. They used to bounce around different cities, but I remember there was this big event going on up in Charlotte. They had the Grand National Calling Competition, or they had some type of turkey calling competition. There was like
Mm-hmm.
Matt Moret there, and gosh, I can't think of all the big names that were there. People I've seen on TV. And so I wanted to go there and watch it. And I was watching it and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would love to be able to go up on that stage one day. All my buddies were telling me I was a good caller. But I heard those guys, I'm like, I'm not that good. But I always thought it'd be cool to be on that stage. But I was too shy back then. There's no way I would have got up in front of a crowd, especially to do turkey noises. And then fast forward to Minnesota, 2009, I saw a billboard up along the highway said some type of Northwest sports show and the turkey calling contest. And I'm like, oh, this is my chance. I said, no one knows me up here. If I make a fool of myself, they'll never know who I am, and they'll never see me again. So it helped in that regard. Like in South Carolina, I was always concerned somebody I would run into that I'd know. It's like, do you see Shane up there make a fool of himself on the stage? Anyway, so I decided to enter that contest, and I committed to it, and I'll never forget it. Once I committed in my mind that I was going to go enter that contest, for like the 2 weeks prior to that contest, I had butterflies. I was so nervous about what I was getting ready to do. And then I went and did it, and it wasn't that bad, actually. I actually placed third in my very first contest. They had an owl hooting division too, and I was so nervous about just getting into the turkey call, I didn't enter the owl hooting, and the owl hooting division occurred, and I'm like, shoot, I could have probably won that one. I think I sound a lot better than those guys. And I've really, done well in the owl hooting side of the competitions. I've tied for first at Grand Nationals in it, and then lost in the call off. So I mean, that's how close I came to winning the Grand Nationals in owl hooting, and I've won a lot of local contests. The turkey calling side of things, I've done well with. Also, I won a lot of state championships and opens in other state. But um, when you get involved with turkey calling contests, if you really want to get better and get to that top performing or whatever the word I'm trying to think of, your best bet is start making your own calls, because then you can tweak them and get them exactly like you want. And so that's what I did. I bought a call press and a tape cutter and the supplies and started tinkering with mouth calls. And then before you know it, people wanted to buy some of my mouth calls. And, I had my YouTube show, and I had a website. And so I created a web store on there, and here we are.
It just keeps trickling downhill
Yeah,
from there,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It
It's
wasn't a path that I intended to go down. It just kind of happened as one thing leads to the next.
well, then I guess it pays for some of your haunts, and it pays for some of the materials to be able to have calls and that kind of thing, right? I mean, imagine makes it easier.
Yeah, I mean, I've had sponsors and stuff, and they give me supplies for like hunting gear and a little bit of money, not a huge amount. But I guess as my popularity's increased, my turkey call sales have increased. I don't need to rely on that revenue from sponsors as much. And right now, I don't have any sponsors. I have zero sponsors. It's um, and I don't spend a whole lot to travel to turkey hunt, believe it or not. A lot of people are like, oh, that's got to be super expensive. The biggest investment for me is time. As far as vacation time,
Hmm.
I can go. I'm just think of a deer hunt I went to out in Nebraska. I was there for like almost 10 days, right? Glassing and then deer hunting. I paid $55 for all my food for that entire 10 days. And then the gas to get there and back. I slept in my truck. So there was very little cost involved. I think my license cost more than what it cost me in fuel and food to be out there. As long as you don't, live in luxury while you're traveling, you can do that sort of stuff. So, I mean, a few $1,000s, $2,000 or $3,000, I can get through a spring.
Just chasing turkeys all up and down, then.
Yeah. 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 Just the fuel is the biggest thing, and license is the biggest
Mhm.
cost for me.
Because once you're there, you're hunting anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleep in the truck, eat a can of beef stew or something, and you go to sleep, and you're sleeping or hunting. So
When you're sleeping in your truck, do you do a lot of like Walmart and truck stop parking lots? Or are you like doing remote camping, like state parks, or what do you mostly do?
wherever I can park legally and not get towed. So Walmart, I don't think I've ever stopped at a Walmart and slept. I did stop one time and dozed off about an hour while I was waiting to meet somebody. But as far as sleeping overnight, if I'm hunting like national forests, you can just park anywhere there and go to sleep. But I sleep in the front seat. I just slide the seat back, recline it, put a head pillow. I got heat and air and music. Believe it or not, like my Explorer that I used to have, on the cold nights, I could let the truck idle all night and it burned maybe a gallon of fuel at most. So, you're looking at less than $3 for heat and air and radio all night.
Hmm.
If I'm in an area where there's not necessarily, where I can't park where I'm hunting, then I'll head to the nearest, like if there's an interstate or a 24-hour store somewhere nearby, or even if it's not a 24-hour store, if if they're open till 11 o'clock, I will ask them, hey, I'm gonna park right here. And sleep a few hours, and I'll get up at like 3 a.m. Is that okay? And they're like, sure. And I'll find any place like that close by. I try to sleep close to where I'm hunting. If I'm out west, South Dakota, anything like that, it doesn't matter where you park out there. There's nothing out there.
The good thing about sleeping in the national park is no one can beat you to the gate if you're at the gate the night before.
Yeah, I guess so. But I never park and sleep at the gate. I never liked that idea. I just try to find me a random pull off somewhere and just sleep there. And I try to stay near the main roads also. I don't want to be 4 miles back in this national forest where somebody may, who knows what kind of riffraff's going to come back there. And then I'm talking about different parts of the country. Out in Nebraska, South Dakota, you're likely not even going to see a single vehicle all night. And if you do, it's probably a farmer or a rancher or something just riding by, going back home after drinking beer at the bar.
So what do you do when you're out there and you're trying to, you're getting out there and you're trying to find a place to hunt? Like, are you just going in the morning and listening for them, or are you trying to do some type of pre-scouting prior to getting out there? Because I guess a lot of people probably never been out there.
It all depends on when I arrive. If I arrive, I'm gonna recollect 2 hunts that I went on. One, I was headed out west, new area, never been to, and I didn't get there early enough in the evening. It was in the nighttime when I got there, so I just went ahead and parked and decided I would just go to this one spot I picked out on the map. It was a pretty high spot, and just listen at daybreak for gobbling, and then scout as it got lighter, or hunt my way and scout at the same time. And if need be, drive around. This particular area, there wasn't a whole lot of access via road. It was a huge chunk of public. And so I just started at a high spot. And then when I heard some distant gobbles, I just started hunting my way there. Another place I went to, this was down south. I wanted to get there in time. I picked out a spot on the map that I thought may have some gobblers. And I hauled butt to get there. And I got there basically after fly up. And I think it was a little too late and I couldn't hear anything on the roost. And so again, the next morning I decided, okay, here's a spot I kind of want to start listening in the morning and then just go from there. I just, it's hard to describe what I'm looking for. You know how it is if you're deer hunting, you've been deer hunting for a while. You can walk through the woods and you just come up on a spot and your mind says, this is a good spot to deer hunt, without any other clues other than your mind saw things, your eyes saw things, your mind registered, okay, this is a good spot. I've had that happen so many times in my past where I get to a spot, I'm like, oh, I'll hang a stand right there. This is just, everything just lines up. And then get my tree, and then an hour or two later, here comes a deer, and I shoot one. That's what with turkey hunting. Also, I can look at a map, and little spots just start clicking for me, and I don't know best how to describe it. I will say I am looking for like water. I'm looking for high spots when available, transition edges between mature woods and then a 10-year-old clear cut or a field. Stuff that I know that is likely going to attract turkeys. But that's how I approach it. If I get there in the middle of the night and I'm unaware of what it's like, I try to be in a spot that I can start hunting and at least listen and then start hunting from there. Or if it's got a grid of roads where I can ride around and start coyote howling and owl hooting and turkey calling, owl hooting, coyote howling, whatever I need to do to strike one from the road and then dive in. It all depends on where I'm going out in the country, how many other people live in that area that might be more pressure, the accessibility to the piece of public, and when I arrive.
Now, you just brought up coyote howling. Now, that's one of those things that's like touch and go with a lot of people, right? Like, do you use it a lot as a locator?
Yeah, quite a bit. I use the barred owl the most, and sometimes they'll gobble at the 8 note, but a lot of times they'll gobble at the caterwauler and the laughing sound that the owls do. And if that doesn't work, then I'll start coyote howling. And I see the comments like that. People are like, oh, you wouldn't do that down here or over here. Turkeys will shut up on you. Well, I'd hate to inform you, but I do it everywhere I go, and I get birds to gobble everywhere I go. I can understand it. Like in South Carolina, I didn't see coyotes when I was younger. But as I got older, I started seeing more and more of them. And, how the rumors get spread. Oh, the DNR brought those coyotes in here because the insurance companies wanted deer. less deer, and so they wanted to kill the deer. Uh, I don't know what's true and all that or not, but all I know is early on, I could see that coyote howling would maybe shut a gobbler up, but now they've been around for decades, and the turkeys know what they are and know that they're not a threat as long as they're a safe distance away, and they'll gobble at the coyote howls.
Do you so I want to take it back real quick. You were talking about the owl hooting, and you said the eighth note or the chuckle and all that other stuff. Like what exactly is that? So people can understand.
I'll, I'll, I'll run the call, describe it for you if you like.
Please.
So the eighth note is basically the typical owl sound. You hear that woo 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 woo. And the caterwauling is, you get a mating pair out in the woods, especially in the spring. That's what they're mating, just like the turkeys, and they start doing that laughing sound. Sounds like monkeys. So I'm sure you've heard that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that really gets them to gobble a lot of times. That caterwauling, it's a little louder and it's a little more higher pitched, I guess, than that soft eight note. The normal, there's a lot more vocalizations that I'll do, but that's the basic two that I do. That softer eight note is a bird. Maybe he's right on the fringes of gobbling anyway, and just any sound will trigger him. So I'll start off with that, and then if he won't gobble that, then I crank into the caterwauler. And if you want it spelled CATERWAULERING, caterwauling.
Do you have like a theory on why that happens? Because I 100% find that a lot. Like I always start with the eight note first, see if he hits a little softer, and then a lot of times, like if I'm pretty confident there's a bird there, I'll hit the eight note and he doesn't hit it, and then I come right back with the chuckle, and he almost always hits it on the chuckle right after that. Do you know why that is, or?
And it's just a more higher volume, higher pitched, louder sound, just like the coyote howl. So I could eight note and a turkey wouldn't gobble. I could caterwauler and they wouldn't gobble, and I could coyote howl and then they would gobble. And it's like, and the coyote howl is like really loud, ear piercing. I had a buddy I was hunting with one time, and when we met up at dark, he said, "Man, I heard your coyote howling," and we looked on X and we were a mile apart, and he could hear my howl from over a mile. And that just demonstrates how loud it is. And so just like an ambulance and off in the distance, you hear the sirens and they'll get birds to gobble. It's something a little higher pitch, a little louder, will sometimes trigger that reluctant gobbler to gobble. And then sometimes they're just in the mood, and any sound, you can go ooh, like that. I've done that with my mouth. Just go ooh, one single note and they gobble.
Pitch kills turkeys. It seems like that change in pitch, even in turkey calling in itself, it seems that pitch kills them. Like as far as getting them to holler.
Yeah, I mean, like I can, you'll see in my videos, I'll yelp to a turkey. Sometimes I'm calling, but sometimes I just want him to gobble so I can figure out where he's at. Has he moved? And I'll do that. Some cutting at the end. I may go just a few little cuts, and then that abruptness and loudness is enough to trigger it out of them.
It's so now that you've gotten them gobble, I guess. Then what are you trying to do from there? Like, are you trying to move in on them? Are you trying to call on them, or what is kind of your outlook on it?
So let's say I owl hoot and get one to gobble. First thing we'll do is drop a pin on Onyx to where I think he's at. If I don't have a good beat on where he's at, I may try to triangulate him by moving off a few hundred yards and owl hoot again. Now I've got two lines intersecting, so I know he's right in this area somewhere. Um, I'll drop a radius. You can create a radius on the pins on Onyx. I'll create like a 200-yard radius, and I want to get to that edge of that radius before I do any turkey calling. And so once I know where he's at, I look at the terrain, got the radius. Okay, I want to be on this spot here. It's a little bit of a high spot. I think I can call him there, and I'll just hightail it there. As I get closer, I may owl hoot again just to pinpoint him and make sure he hasn't moved anywhere. And then I get set up in an ideal location, or I stand, prepared to be set up. I looked around, there's a good setup here, but I'm gonna call with a mouth call real quick to see what his interest is, and then get set up, and then just start working them and then adjust as necessary. If I struck him with a pod call, which I do a lot of times, walking and calling during the day, it's basically the same strategy, but I may hit him with owl hooter much earlier to get him to gobble again to see if he was actually coming my way. I don't want to run into him. So I'd prefer to strike him with a locator call than a turkey call for obvious reasons.
And you'll get them to holler back even to an owl call the middle of the day, or is that more
Yeah.
that first light?
Oh, all day. I was talking to a fellow on the phone the other day, and he's like, "Oh man, I just thought a crow would be better. I hear crows all the time," and I'm like, "Exactly. The turkeys become immune to it. They hear them all the time. They don't hear owls hoot during the day. It's just not as common as it is in the evening and early morning. And a turkey, all of a sudden, they're hearing crows and stuff. They're oblivious to it at this point. All of a sudden, they hear woo, 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 and that's different sounds enough to bring out a gobble in them.
Do you
So
do you use any other locators besides the owl? Like, do you have any other go-to if it's not working? And the coyote, obviously, like daytime.
My three primary ones are the owl call, the coyote call, which I'm doing on my turkey call that I hunt with. And if that doesn't work, I'll get a glass surface pot call. I like glass surface, high pitched, just ear piercing, and I'll cut on it and I'll get them to gobble. I don't use a crow call very much. I can do a decent crow call, my mouth call. I've been practicing with that, and I can do a pretty good natural voice crow. Although I'm just looking over here at a crow call. I did pick up at the convention. It's the most realistic crow call I've ever heard. I mean, it's most crow calls you get from a company, and it's like meh, meh. It's like a buzzing crow sound. This one has that that authentic sound to it. So I'm gonna carry that with me this year, and just use it occasionally when I can't get a bird to gobble, or just use it occasionally because I think it's really nice sounding the crow call.
What
Do you know
was?
what it is off the top of your head?
I was gonna say.
Do you
What's
know
that?
what makes it off the top of your head?
Oh, it's Wild Talker. My buddy Mike Batty, he designed it, and this is a new version that they just came out with. His son-in-law or former son-in-law, I think, owns the company now. But they're expensive. They're like $100 each, but they're in my mind well worth it. They sound just like the real thing.
I mean, for killing, it doesn't really matter what it costs, right? As long as it's killing them. $100 is $100, I guess.
It's a one time purchase. It'll last me the rest of my life if I take care of it. So
Well,
I got 10 more years to me. It's $10 a year.
Crow Busters used to make one of the better ones that was out there, and that was one of the better crow calls because it had that low rasp that but then a lot of them, like you said, they're more like kazoos, like
this is what it looks like. Now the guy running, can you see that? Is that in focus?
Yeah.
Okay, well it's reversed, but
It's all right.
The guy that I got it from can do it a lot better than me. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I heard him playing this, and I said I'd like to get one, and he said he's got his little box. I said no, I want the one on your neck you were just blowing. And so I bought it, and my buddy was there and wanted to get one also, and so he started running my buddy's call, and I was like, his sounds better than mine, and so I blew mine, he blew it, and it sounded better, and so then he blew mine again. I said, oh, it's not the call, it's me. I was like, I just got a little bit of practice though. The acoustics in this room is not great, but if you could hear it in person, it has a really good sound.
You can hear that rasp underneath it, like that.
You have to bite down on that reed a lot, or is it?
Oh no, I'm not biting. I just got my lips on it loosely, so it's and you can adjust where you can put it all the way in.
That's a good sounding call.
I still got some practice to do, but it'll get there eventually.
It'll get them to hammer. Shane, I got a quick question before we get away from the owl call. We were talking earlier about cutting the camera off too soon. I saw a video you one time doing an owl call, and I forget what you said, something about that an owl hissed at you, and you
he chomped at me,
and then you You hooted again, and then all of a sudden you kind of ducked and the camera shut off. What happened?
So, and that when the owl didn't really swoop down on me, I was screwing around with my buddy.
Yeah.
But he did. I think he did that one did hiss at me, but I've had them a lot of times when I'm calling. You know, like I said, the owls are mating in spring too, and so you go in there and you blow an owl hooter. A lot of times I'll get them to fly into real close. And I had one fly in, and he was up above me. He was just snapping his beak. He was like, and I never seen him do that. And immediately I thought that was a sign of aggression. And I looked it up, and sure enough, that's what owls do when they're really pissed. And I've had them kind of to the point where I thought they were going to attack me. They were getting really aggressive and close and snapping their beaks. But that one did. He kind of hissed at me. He was like, you know, and I said, did he just hiss at me? And he's like, yeah. And so I blew it again, and just screwing around with him, my buddy, I just ducked like the owl had come down. And I put it on TikTok just as a kind of a little comedic thing. But
Yeah, you got me.
yeah.
It is cool though, because like you said, they are breeding that time of year, and you do call in quite a few owls, especially in like the evening, trying to locate. And like sometimes you'll call and you'll hear a real owl, and then you'll call again, then you'll hear him, he's closer, and you don't always hear him fly in. And sometimes you'll just look up, like, holy shit, where'd he come from? Like he's
they're almost 100% silent when they're flying. But I sorry to interrupt. Go ahead and finish.
No.
I was going to add something.
No, I'm all set.
Oh, okay. What I was going to say is, that's the thing with calls and stuff. I see a lot of people say, "Oh, you don't need an owl hooter. You can just use your mouth." That's what irks me the most when someone comes on and asks the question, "Hey, what's a good owl hooter?" And then you see these 3 or 4 knuckleheads that says, "You don't need an owl call. Just use your mouth." What have you heard this guy call with his mouth? He may suck, and that's why he's asked for an owl hooter. But the other thing is sounding realistic is a lot of people disregard it. But there's a lot of times when I've been out on an owl call and I get a real owl to respond, and that real owl wouldn't respond to me going ooh, 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 with my mouth. But that owl call makes a really authentic sounding hoot and a caterwauling, and I'll get an owl to respond 3 or 4 or 500 yards away. Too far away that, if there was a gobbler over there, he wouldn't gobble to my owl because it sounds so quiet. But because I got that owl fired up, there was a gobbler, 100 yards from him, and he gobbled to that owl, because now it's in his ear loud. So you got to think outside the box when you're thinking about realism and everything. Like, what is it affecting? Also, not just getting a turkey to gobble. Is it enticing the other owls to gobble? Is it I look at all the wildlife that I'm dealing with out in the woods, not just the target animal.
I think it's so important though too, like you said, like, yeah, I can make a owl hoot with my mouth and I can get them to fire off, but you only get so many mornings and so many hunts on them turkeys. Why wouldn't you really want to sound like the actual animal?
Yeah.
That you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you buy a cheap turkey call just to maybe sound like a turkey and have maybe a 25% chance when I can buy a real good turkey call and really sound like a turkey and spend my time practicing and have a 75% chance of killing a turkey or making them gobble? Like, you only get so many mornings, and especially for most people, if say the season's a month long, they only get 4 Saturdays. So why wouldn't you just practice with an owl hooter to get them to gobble and then work on them birds and do it right, then try and do it with your mouth? Like, I can make a mouth call and anything.
How many gobblers are you passing by because you didn't get them to gobble with your natural voice? Because as good as a lot of people are using their natural voice to owl hoot, I have never heard anyone that can caterwaul like a real owl. They go wah, 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 like that, but it doesn't sound like a real owl, and it's not near the volume of a call. And case in point, I was hunting with this guy. He was using his natural voice to owl hoot, and he did it several times. He even did the little wah, wah. Oh, we didn't hear a bird gobble. And I said, "Do you mind if I use my owl call?" "Oh, go ahead." I got it out and I 8-noted nothing. 8-noted and went into the caterwauler. There's a turkey right there. Had I not done that, we would have just went to another area and we never would have known that gobbler's there. We ended up killing that gobbler.
And that's what happens a ton of the times. Like, you get somebody. Me and Steve had it happen last year.
No,
Was
a couple years ago, but
couple years ago, we had gone into this piece and we knew them birds were there. We had already owl hooted at them. We had the birds right there. We were ready to kill them. We were set up, and somebody comes in and they're doing the same thing. Woo, 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 and then woo, woo,
That's a pretty good natural voice crow.
time and time again, and it's like they didn't get nothing to gobble, and they just kept on going. And you're like, if you spent your time and you did it right, you'd ought to gone killed that thing right then and there. Like, what do you know, like why? Like, I don't know. And Shane, to the crow call thing, I practiced my life off to get the right crow call, and I've killed a lot of crows with my voice.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I'll tell you, to the point of leaving gobblers behind. I'm sure I've missed gobblers too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leading up to a little tip for folks listening or watching. I kind of speed locate a lot of times. If I've got the access, a grid of roads, or whatever, where I can stop at a spot, owl hoot, nothing, coyote howl, nothing. I head off to the next spot and do the same. Eventually, I'll strike a gobbler and I can go hunt them the next day. But if I had the time to sit there like owl hoot and wait 15, 20 minutes and then owl hoot again, they would probably gobble on the second owl hoot. I think that sometimes that coyote howl shuts them down. I've seen it where they gobble an owl hoot, but not a coyote howl. And then I couldn't get them to gobble again to an owl hoot. And I've also seen the opposite also where they didn't gobble to an owl hoot, but they gobbled to a coyote howl because it was louder and ear piercing. But to my point is, don't get in too big a rush. Also, I'm guilty of that a lot of times. But a lot of times, I'm traveling out of state. I only got a few days to hunt. I'm trying to cover as much ground. I'm trying to find that hot 2-year-old. I'm not worried about getting an inch and a half spurs. I just want to find a gobbler that's willing to play the game the next morning.
That reminds me of another TikTok video I got to ask you about. What's the backstory with locating that bird at 10:30 at night?
So I actually located him early in the evening. We saw him cross the road with a hen. That video is dropping next week, I think.
Okay.
At any rate, I saw him cross the road in the hen. We went and tried to locate some other birds. I came back up there at sunset, and he was still in the road. I owl hooted or something, and he gobbled. And yeah, that's right. We saw him earlier. We came back later. He crossed the road and went into the woods as we drove by, and we pulled off a little side cut. And I got out and owl hooted or ran a call, and he gobbled. I was like, I think he's back in the road. And we peered out, and there he was down the road in the road strutting. There was a hen with him, and she wanted to roost across the road. Anyway, he gobbled his head off. And I'm like, this bird's going to die gobbling this much and hanging out on the road right here. People are going to see him. But anyway, he went to roost, and we went off and roosted other birds. We came back at dark, and he gobbled again. And because I was hunting with a bow, I said, you know what? I want to get in there and find a spot to set up because I'm hunting with a bow, no blind or anything. I want to find a spot I can sit with a big tree right in front of me where it'll allow me to draw when the gobbler goes behind it. We walked on up in there at 10:30 at night. And now I want people to know that 10:30 at night is not really late in the late season, especially in the Midwest. Sunset is not until like 9:30 or so. But by the time you spend the 30 minutes or so afterwards trying to roost and then drive back to where you're camping or whatever, it's well after 10, So it's not super late. Anyway, while we were setting up, my spot, just kind of moving limbs, brushing a little spot in, I owl hooted and got him to gobble again. And then I turned on the camera and say, hey, folks, watch this. And he gobbled again. He was still gobbling when we walked away. I don't know. I don't think he got much sleep that night.
Sometimes you can't get them. Once the sun goes down, they won't do a dang thing of gobbling. So to do it like that,
exactly. I was just super surprised at the way this gobbler was acting. I don't think, I don't know. He must have not had much pressure, or he drifted off the private land that was nearby. There's some private land right near there. And so maybe he wasn't hunting on the private land, so he was still kind of a little dumb, but he learned, he got some lessons learned that morning.
He came in, he had no air left in him by the time he come to you. That's why.
he gobbled his head off on the limb the next day too. I mean, just as soon as it started getting at least a little bit of light, started gobbling. And that's another clip you probably saw where it says, "I don't think it's going to do much good, but I'm gonna call to him anyway," because he'd already been just gobbling, and so, but then he responded to my call and just really started, gobbling even more. So that's I'm not gonna spoil too much more about it, but it's a great hunt, and it'll be out I think next week.
So I guess my follow up question to that would be, how late do you think you could, like, if you're on a road trip, right? You're out of state, new dirt, you don't know where you are, and you're really trying to find a bird. How late do you think you can really effectively push it, well after dark, and still get a bird to respond for the morning? Is it a proximity thing? Like, do you have to get closer because it's later?
You mean closer to the bird?
Yeah, if it's like super late, do you have to be like more in their wheelhouse to get that shot
No,
gobble?
I don't think so. I think it's just their willingness to gobble. I will say this about 30 official sunset and official sunrise. Those are my times to go by. I don't like when people say, "Oh, about 6 a.m." whatever. I want to know official sunrise and official
Mhm.
sunset. That dictates a lot for me when I'm out there roosting and when I'm hunting and getting on a bird or to set up on a bird in the morning. But typically 30 minutes after official sunset is about the shut off time when I can't get a bird to gobble again.
Mhm.
I have gotten them to gobble later. Obviously, we just talked about that. But about 30 minutes after official sunset, it's not, well, I shouldn't say 30 minutes. It's a little bit more, 35 minutes, where it's almost pitch dark. You still got some light in the sky, but not much, and that's when it's very difficult to get them to gobble. I usually start trying to roost them. Well, from what I've seen, is turkeys normally fly up to roost in the early season about 10 or 15 minutes after official sunset.
Mhm.
You got about a 15, 20-minute window there. And actually, you can get a little bit later after official sunset in early season because it's still lighter in the woods later. There's no leaf foliage. But in the late season, when all the trees are greened up, turkeys start flying up to the trees 10 to 15 minutes before sunset, official sunset. And so that's when based on the season, time of the year, how much foliage there is when I'll start making that first owl hoot, get them to gobble on the roost. And what they typically do is they won't gobble on the ground a lot as well as easily as they will once in the limb settle down. They're on the ground, they're looking for a tree, you owl hoot, they didn't gobble to you, but then they fly up to the limb and they're going to spend the next few minutes hopping and getting settled. But once they're set on the limb where they're just kind of looking around, then they'll gobble. And I've actually witnessed this while I was filming a turkey, a ridge. I was hoping to get one to gobble, and I didn't realize I caught it with the camera, him flying up. But you see me owl hooting and hear me owl hooting, and he didn't gobble. And I was like, well, I guess there's no turkey up there right now or something. I forget what it was. And then I noticed him with my eyes. He had changed limbs and he got in a spot where I could see him. I said, that looks like a turkey. I got binoculars, and sure enough, there he was. I owl hooted and he gobbled. And I'm like, oh, okay. Why didn't he gobble the first time? Well, I went back and watched the footage, and he flew up. He was moving around the limb, trying to get settled all this time, and I'm owl hooting, and he was not paying me any attention. He was too busy trying to find him a spot to sleep for the night. But once he got settled down, he would gobble every time at an owl hoot. So I say this. I try to wait till I think they're at least up in the trees, and then I start owl hooting. It's much easier to get them to gobble then than it is when they're still on the ground.
Makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're one of just them birds that, man, it just, no matter what it takes or what it goes into it, they always keep you learning. Like, it's always some type of crazy thing that happens. And they all have their own type of attitude, and they all have their own little thing, They're just,
That's for sure.
but it keeps us coming back for more. So, Shane, I have one last question for you, man, and we kind of want to know this is what drives you outdoors?
Turkey hunting.
Yeah. Well, I figured as much.
It used to be a Ford Explorer, but that's in the scrap heap now.
We get one in 100. It was a Toyota Tacoma, but now it's a Ford Explorer this time, Steve. No. No, we just always ask everybody. It's kind of our question is like what drives people to get them going, and because everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah, well, I can give you an answer. I mean, like spring turkey hunting is my thing. I like early season deer hunting too, and it's not just the obviously the killing or anything like that. The actual hunt to pursue the gobbler gives me a reason to get out there in the woods in the spring. But I just enjoy being in the woods when the world is kind of being reborn after a long winter. Especially since I moved to Minnesota, the winters up here are so freaking harsh. And then you get like up here, no lie, it was so cold during the week, like in the negative 20s. And you get a day here and I'll give you an example. I walked outside and I had just a light hoodie on. I'm like, boy, it's nice out today. I get in the car and start driving. It was 13 degrees. And it's amazing because we just came from a week of negative 20s, how warm that felt. And I'm like in a little light hoodie. I felt good. There's no breeze. The sun was out. But to my point, though, that's what spring up here, spring is to me in general. Even when I live in South Carolina, trees are starting to bud out. The birds are starting to sing. It's the mating season. Little baby animals are starting to be born and hatch or whatever. Just sitting up on a ridge top and listening to all that, and then I get to, on a gobbler too in the environment that I love the most. That's what gets me out there.
I love it. Where on that?
I was just going to say, I remember noticing exactly what you just said because I grew up a deer hunter my whole life. I've seen hundreds of sunrises in the deer woods in the fall, November. And I got into turkey hunting later in life. And I remember that first morning in the turkey woods and the sun came up and the birds chirp different and the air feels different. And I'm like, oh, this is a different sunrise. This is not the same sunrise that I'm used to in November, So I can really relate to what you just said.
And the smells. It's the sounds and the smells, all the flowers, the different aromas, you're getting out there. It's something enjoyable for me and a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're on that same latitude as you are, and it's definitely one of those things like here, like we have those crappy winters, the snow's deep, it's 10 degrees. When it's 35, 45 degrees out and like you said, everything starts to green and everything starts to bud, like it's a different world than being down in the south in the spring. Like the world literally comes back to life. And it's kind of crazy, but I can't wait for it, man. It's right around the corner. I mean, we're talking, we're almost in it. Like it's one of those things that we look forward to, and it just restarts our hunting season. So
that's right.
It's super nice. Shane, do you want to drop kind of where they can find you, where they can find your calls, where they can go and check you out on YouTube and follow along as your season starts to progress?
Yeah, that's an easy answer. Your one-stop source for all that is ShaneSimpsonHunting.com. That's where you can get my calls. There's links to my YouTube and all my social, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all right there on my website at the bottom. So I don't need to spit out a bunch of names for those. You just go to ShaneSimpsonHunting.com. You'll find it all right there.
And I'll leave it with this. And me and Steve have been looking all over for one of the best owl hooters or owl tubes in the world. And there is nobody that makes them better than you do, Shane. So I think everybody should go and get one if they want to learn how to owl hoot. Shane definitely makes the best owl hooter.
Well, there's a little caveat. I appreciate that, but I was making them for hooks calls, but I don't make them for them anymore. So sorry to burst y'all's bubble.
Yeah.
But I do have a recommendation. You could go there and buy one from Hooks, but I've been running, the James Harrison is the one that designed that call originally, and I'm running one of his calls.
Oh.
So there's a link in my gear list if you want to get a call like this. It's a great sound. That's what I've competed with for so long, and the
So you don't make them for hooks no more?
No. So I
sorry.
That's fine. I just recently resigned from their pro staff. I'm going independent, I guess you will.
Mm-hmm.
I built them and tuned them for them. Scott Hook, that owned the company before he passed away, he did all that. And then so when his nephew took over the company, they didn't have anyone there to put them together and tune them. And so I stepped up to it. And I think they got someone now trained up where they know how to tune it, or someone with some experience. So I'm not doing them anymore. So hopefully they've got somebody in place that's good with that.
Well, when you were tuning them, you made the best ones. All right, so that's how I'll leave it at
I
that.
still have some. I appreciate it, but to
I
be
got,
re-
I got the best alcohol there is. It cannot be duplicated. I'm confident you tuned mine. Okay,
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm at. All right.
yeah, yeah. It's to be honest though, I really don't have the time to tune owl hooters. I got so many mouth calls and pot call orders that I'm dealing with. I don't know if I could find the time right now. I'd have to do it in the summer. So
I'm a sucker for a good owl call, and like I said, the one that I have is like my holy grail. And you put an owl call in front of me, I'm going to try it out, and every single time I'll pick one up and I'll blow it and I'll put it right back down because I cannot find one better than the one that's in my vest right now.
Yeah.
which one is that?
I have the poly hooks.
Okay.
I had both. I had a wood one and poly, and the poly one was just lights out, and I stuck with that one.
Do you have it handy? Is it one that I tuned?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
If you look down in the throat, this is the top part. But if you look down in the throat,
I'm gonna have to grab mine real quick while y'all talking about this. Hold on.
you look down in the throat of it.
Yeah.
You had to shine a light. You'll see my initials right there. If I'm the one that tuned it and assembled it.
And I almost don't want to look because I want to tell myself that you did. But
Right, just don't look.
I'm gonna look when I go upstairs. But I'm serious when I say this. I was at the Harrisburg show a couple weekends ago, and I picked up a couple of owl calls and tried them, and it's like I can't replace the one I have.
It's a good possibility. It's one I put together because I did thousands of them. So
so I have mine right here. Does it come apart?
No, yours it's glued together. So you'd have to look down.
You need a flashlight.
Shine a light down there, and you'll see the initials. You'll see my initials. You'll see something in writing in white down there. It depends on when did you get it.
I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
Oh yeah,
it's in there.
I see it.
You see SLS in there?
It says SS in mine.
Okay, SS. I did some SS. I did some SLS.
So I'm going to tell you right now, this is the best. See, I was validating.
Sell that on eBay right now for a couple.
I ain't giving this up. Do you know how many turkeys this thing is killed alone?
So you're tuning all of them at one time, or
yeah, I was doing the wood ones, the walnuts, the Osage, the synthetic ones. I was doing them all, and that had some complexity for them. Number one, I'm not tuning it for free, so they did pay me a little bit to tune each one. But also, you got to ship all that stuff to my house, and I got to ship it all back to them. So it makes sense for them to have someone in house once they figure out how to tune them. And then there's a lot of nuances to tuning these things to get them just right. If you ask any duck call tuner or call maker, they know what's involved. So it makes sense for them. I live in Minnesota. They're in Arkansas. If they can get somebody local to do it, that's better for them.
I got mine at I got this one from NWTF last year when I was in NWTF, and the reason I know that it came from you is because I walked by the booth and you had a bunch of them and you were bringing them to the booth, so I knew that it was from you.
Yeah, I delivered a bunch last year right to the convention. I drove down with them.
Yeah, that's how I knew.
Forgive me if this wasn't you, but I recall watching a video and somebody had run a drill bit through the end of theirs and opened up the hole. Was that you?
Yes. And the reason I did that is because, I'm filming my hunts. I got lav mics. I got shotgun mics. Obviously, my owl call is going to sound loud on camera, but everyone kept saying, your call sounds louder than mine. And I was like, it's probably just me blowing it and also the microphone's picking it up. But I wanted to show people if they didn't really like the volume of their call, they could drill out the holes. And I did a demonstration. I took a call that to me was fine. It sounded fine. And on video, I just drilled out a hole a little bit and made it sound. And the sound, it got louder and the sound didn't deteriorate. Now, once you get to a certain point, you drill those holes too much. If you're not holding your hands just right, it won't sound very good.
Yeah.
You'll start losing that realism.
Go ahead.
In that video, I describe how I just use a slightly smaller or larger drill bit than your hole, and do one hole at a time, and then increase the drill bit just a 16th or whatever, or 32nd, until you get to the volume you like. And as soon as you start hearing the sound deteriorate, then stop. Don't do it anymore.
Yeah. I remember seeing that video and I was like, I said, nah, you can't mess with perfection, man.
Yeah.
With mine.
Yeah, I've got an old hook owl hooter sitting here somewhere, a walnut one, and I love the sound of it so much I will not risk ruining it by drilling a hole in it. But
Yeah.
if you're just using it for hunting or something, sure, experiment with it. And if you start losing a little realism, like I said, then maybe just stop right there. And
she's staying right how she is. She's perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the new one because I'm gonna need something else to put in there, but that'll be good.
Yeah, I'll probably have them. I'll probably have them available on my website next year. But right now, you can just go to the link and you can buy them. I don't know how many he's got available right now.
I'll wait.
But,
I'll wait until next year when you get them. We got plenty.
Yeah.
We got the good stuff now. We're good.
Yeah.
So.
I want one with that SS on it.
Yeah, that's it.
all right. I'm not gonna take over tuning for him. He does.
Just take it apart and sign it for us, all right? And then you can send it out so we know, right, Shane?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll sign them. Yeah. Do I get an extra $1 for signing them?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, or you can come to the Northeast and kill a turkey with it, then sign it. How's that? No.
All right, that'll work.
Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure, bud. We're looking forward to watching the 2025 turkey season unveil for you. It's thank you very much for joining us. It's been a blessing to have you, telling some stories and stuff, and hopefully it won't be the last time. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.